All right, Xfinity Pocono, 16:1 plus 2 of my steering ratio, steering offset, and then brake bias is 60%. I'm doing that because that 60% is kind of in the middle of where I want to be. Like, I want to be lower in turn 2, but I want to be higher in turn 1. And you can use the brake bias adjuster if you really want to. I don't think I need to, though, so I'm just going to let it be. For the lap itself, I'm struggling talking and doing the actual hot lap, so I'm probably going to go pretty quiet for the actual lap. This is a pretty tough one. You got to focus pretty hard for Pocono just because 3 completely separate turns drive completely different from each other. It's going to be first lap, hot lap, because you really can get your tires up to temp pretty good on this long section of Pocono. So what I'm going to talk about before we get to the lap here is the run up. So we're going to start out wide, get the nose pointed low, and just try to get full throttle as early as possible. So we underdrive and we go wide. We get the nose pointed down early, and then as soon as we get the nose pointed down early, we just go full throttle, get the car driving across the rest of the track. Should be a good run up here. I want to be at 174 at the line. All right, I'm going to shut up because I need to focus for this. See you in a bit. That was pretty good. Definitely left a 10th out there in turn 1, and I'm probably a little tiny bit off the pace in turn 3 and turn 2, but that should be a pretty decent lap to go by. Okay. You can see all the attempts that I did trying to talk while I did the lap, and of course the moment I don't try to talk is when I actually do better. Maybe I should learn from that more often. So we talked about the run-up already. Nothing too special about it. It's going to feel weird, but just make sure that you underdrive entry, like early entry on the brake, so that I can get this nose pointed down to the yellow. Because if you don't point down to the yellow before throttling up, you're going to get really loose on exit. Like, you're already getting loose on exit when you have the angle, but if you don't have the angle, you're going to get extremely loose. Okay, turn 1. You can enter really anywhere between the yellow and the second lane here. Probably like a little bit off this seam with your lefts is about the highest you can be. I let my car tell me where it wanted to go. I started with trailing out of the throttle to make sure I had a smooth entry. Then a little bit of brake on the high end, 30 to 40%. This is the point where the low brake bias would kick out my rear, but because turn 1 is so like long entering, you kind of are forced to brake while you're already turning, so you can't really back up your braking zone or else you're just going to lose a ton of momentum. So I get on that brake and then I instantly trail it once it starts settling into the corner, and then I just use my steering wheel on my trail brake to stick it about a half lane off the yellow, and I just hold that trail brake until the car settles into the corner, not sliding back up. It slides up a little bit, but at this point I'm like, I think I can force it at this point. You wouldn't want to do this in a long run, but I am going to force it on the throttle here. In fact, I could have been a little bit earlier. This was pretty simple getting off the corner, but the line is pretty fine in turn 1. If you go just a little bit too early on the throttle, you're just straight up to the wall. It's not really like a easy line to find. Okay, turn 2. It's going to be a faster corner. I tend to start getting out of the throttle around the Pocono sign. At least for hot lap, it's going to change a lot during the race. And then just only a trail brake. You don't want to use that 40 slowdown percent. You want to use that 20 trail percent. So trail all the way down until right before you get to the yellow line. Then you pick up the throttle. And if you do that right, you should be getting loose. You want to be kicking out your rear here. If you're plowing tight, that means that you either carry too much speed into the corner or you just didn't have a good angle on your entry. You want to be really wide and get in there, but at the same time, you want to get to that yellow and you want to have your rear rotating for you. And it should be a fairly simple exit if you do all those things. If it's a really tough exit and you feel like you're going to hit the wall, you probably need to fix your entry. Okay, turn 3. Gonna go a little bit wide. I'm gonna go a little bit narrow during the long run, but I like the wide entry just for speed. I trail out of my throttle as I'm coming down the track. See how that is? So full outside, I'm full. Then I trail to 0 as I get towards the bottom. And then about half a lane off the bottom, I pick up my brake on the trail percent. And I just try to meet the curb there. And there's a point where this curb tightens. You probably would love getting to that curb at that exact point when it tightens. Or you hold it a little bit through there. I got a little bit sliding up the track because of that earlier entry, so you might want to arc it just a little bit more than I did. But the point is, once you get that car to settle one way or another on the trail braking, then you can just get really aggressive on your throttle. I slid a little bit, but it was all right. And that's the hot lap. So we're gonna do a couple long run laps here. The ideas of long run aren't particularly different than the hot lap, except we're just gonna really make sure that we take lines that make sure that we do not slide any of our tires or anything like that. Turn 2 is always the corner I struggle the most on the long run, just consistently hitting it. I guess it's kind of like a road racer corner in my opinion, and I'm not super good on like pure timing corners, especially on like turn-ins. I like to have a little bit of leeway, a little bit of give to them, and just kind of figuring out where I am afterwards. You see, it's all about really smooth off the throttle. We really don't want to get that slide there. Probably want to be on that brake a little bit longer. But when we're getting on the brake, we're just using it to settle the car into its lane. The only corner that we really have to slow down for is a little bit of turn 1, just because of how deep we drive it into the corner. Then we just hold that brake till it sticks. I'm gonna swipe a little bit there, but we're gonna pick up the throttle. You can see it's not that different. We're just really making those same lines, having the same ideas, and just making sure all 4 tires are grounded. A little brake there. One of the big things I change on long run is I don't force full throttle as much, because that's how you get into trouble. Probably give up a lot with too much time there, but we're gonna keep it really on the bottom, see what our exit's like. Yeah, I really do like keeping that car on the bottom longer. I probably lost out on a 10th in my hot lap just by not keeping it down there, letting it slide up. So that's another thing. Turn 3, keep it on the curb for like as long as possible. Be a little more planted on the yellow on long runs here. Good laps. You can see that these laps are like not that much worse than my hot lap attempt. And it's just because of the nature of the Xfinity car. They don't take super well to overdriving, like the truck would, for example. I missed that. You can see the time go away when I missed 2. That's my kryptonite in Pocono. I just lose focus and miss turn 2 quite a bit. We're gonna try to keep that car all the way on the curb again for as long as we can. See, we lose a little bit on the front end, but then we just have so much of a better exit. But like 3/10 off at Pocono from our all-time best just on a long run type lap, that's like really good. Like no one's gonna pass you if you're doing that. Don't have to really worry too much about like front tire saving. As long as you're keeping all 4 tires under you, the car probably is happy. If you find that you're plowing tight in like turn 2 for whatever reason, maybe turn 1 if you're getting on the gas too quickly, then that's a cause for concern and to start backing up some points. You want the car to be rotating on the right rear, but you just don't want it to be sliding because that's where the temperature comes from. And we'll come around in the final time here. Not much of a long run, but we have the ideas down. The points are going to change, but the ideas are going to stay the same. And I'm going to nail the wall. Oh, no, I didn't nail the wall, but almost. And you guys will probably see that right rear is probably on fire compared to the right front. pretty even. But you see 3 laps and we already burned that much tire out of it. It's going to be a real tire conservation race unless it's a wreck fest, so be careful with that. All right, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope to see you all on the track.